Well, what's up, folks? Of course, it is episode 33. Not only that, but as some people love to call it now, Friday Eve. It is Thursday night, and we welcome you guys to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. And hopefully, of course, we've had all our crazy technical difficulties all taken care of. So this should be a very good quality show tonight. We're going to have on, let me get rid of this thing here. It keeps popping up. But on the show, we're going to talk about tonight is the final drive of the first half in Super Bowl 35, the penalties, of course, that a particular Mahomes had a problem with until she met the Brady family. Britt Reed, and now no longer with, unfortunately, Kansas City, along with the one thing that even the professor himself doesn't know. He's off camera here momentarily, but the professor will get an apology from me. And you have to tune into that one because, well, even he doesn't know what the apology is going to be all about. So and speaking about apologies, again, we apologize for the Super Bowl show not being on. Unfortunately, because of all the stuff that went on, we weren't able to make it happen, but we'll recap all that stuff, of course, tonight. And not only that, we'll have the interview with Jabari Thomas that I've been promising you guys that I missed on the last show. And along with that, we'll have fireworks at the very end, along with Marc Farzetta and his new show. And if you guys have not have looked at it or checked it out, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. on YouTube, Monday through Friday. It is the Farzy Show with Marc Farzetta, and we have him as the guest coming back with us tonight. So a lot to do tonight. It's an action-packed show. We thank everyone for tuning in. So with all that being said, thank you guys all for tuning in tonight. Thank you also to Cleveland's Finest Podcast. Those guys have been sharing a lot of our posts, and we do appreciate those guys for doing that. And if you guys want to check out their show, of course, they're on from 6 to 9 on Wednesday nights. I could be adding an additional hour, but from 6 to 9 with Cleveland's Finest Podcast. You can check them out on Facebook. So check those guys out. But with all that being said, of course, I am Angel. This is Broad Tree South Sports. And before we get everything underway here, we want to make a quick mention, of course, for the Bay Clothing Company, and I will make sure that I can bring up that screen if I didn't already here. Oops. Nope. I want to add to the stream here. There it is. For the Bay Clothing Company. And if you guys see, of course, we know that the Bucks have won the Super Bowl. They are your current Super Bowl champions. And if you can see here, there's the Lombardi Trophy. There's the local news anchor from Fox 13. They're considered the City of Champions, so they have updated a lot of their T-shirts. City of Champions, Champions, Bucks. So as always, check them out. They are a small business group. David Allison run that department as far as over there for the Bay Clothing Company. So check them out. As always, forthebayclothingcompany.com. You guys, when you type in the website, it may come up as forthebayclothingco.com. So if you see that and you get to this website here, it'll ask you to put in your name, become part of the crew, and it'll give you 10 to 20% off on the merchandise. So again, forthebayclothingcompany.com. Please check them out when you get the opportunity. So let me take this banner off here for a second. And of course, as we said, we have Marc Farzetta coming up very shortly. And I will bring up, matter of fact, before we do anything else, the Farzy Show, as you can see right there on Twitter. If you guys are not following Marc Farzetta, make sure you do follow him on Twitter at Marc Farzetta. Easy enough to remember. If you can't, put in the search and you will see the Farzy Show with Marc Farzetta, 6 to 7 a.m. Monday through Friday. So please check out his show. Of course, he's taking the time to be with us tonight, and we do appreciate it. So let me once again bring the crew back on here. And we can't, as always, can never get the show started without the two most important gentlemen. The first one being my co-host, not Mike co-host, but he is Vito Corleone. Mike. Fuji, how's it going tonight?
Pretty good. Send some of that Tampa Bay weather up here. I'm getting tired of this damn snow. Either that or I'm going to hop a flight and come down to you.
Well, come on down. Listen, we got plenty of room down here, at inside the studio and anywhere you want to go. We got plenty of it, and we have plenty of warm temperatures, so there's no complaints down here from Florida whatsoever. And, of course, we have our sports contributor himself, Michael, the Professor / Juru Sherman. Mike, how are you?
I am doing fantastic. I think that this show tonight should be sponsored by the letters T, B, and 12, but I want to know what's going on with the number 11. Let's go. Let's have a great show.
Well, we'll see exactly what's going to happen there. Of course, we can't forget the man who's joining us tonight. It is Marc Farzetta with the Marc Farzy Show. The Farzy Show, excuse me, with Marc Farzetta, 6 to 9, Monday through Friday. That just kicked off not too long ago. Marc, we do appreciate you coming back on with us. Thank you for joining, of course, the show. Whoops, excuse me, I clicked everybody out accidentally. But thank you so much for coming back onto the show. We really do appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on. It is my honor, gentlemen. Thanks for having me back.
Not a problem whatsoever. And I do see the comments coming in, so I'm going to get the comments here momentarily. A couple things to talk about. Of course, we have the Eagles. Interesting enough, that never seems to go away, that storyline. So there's tons to talk about there, and I'm pretty sure leading all the way up to maybe the draft, if not beyond. But I'll get to the comments to you guys here momentarily. One thing I guess we'll ask right out the gate is, so what is the latest and greatest when it comes to Carson Wentz?
The latest, and probably not greatest, unfortunately, but the latest, at least with him, is that the Eagles are just sitting and waiting to pounce on the right offer. Supposedly, I saw a report recently from Ron Jaworski saying that the Colts are giving the best offer right now. They're the team that should be the most confident in terms of fixing Carson Wentz, being that they have the most experience with Carson Wentz, and the obvious reason is right there in front of us, and that obviously is Frank Reich. So that's the latest right now, but I still think that Howie's going to give this another day or two, or maybe even a little bit longer than that, just to see if any other team jumps a little bit higher than the Colts are willing to jump right now, to give them the biggest package possible in a return for Carson. I don't think it's going to be a huge haul. I think if they have aspirations for a Matthew Stafford return in the Jared Goff trade with the 2 first-round picks and all that, I think they're crazy. If that is the case, though, I think Howie is going to drum up a lot of excitement again from a lot of people. But I know a lot of people like myself will also have to wait to see what he does with those draft picks, because that overall is still the bigger concern. But I think right now, to answer the question in a more concise manner, right now, Howie is just lying in the weeds, waiting to see what pops up around him so we can pounce on the best offer in return for Carson Wentz.
All right, that's really interesting. I'm going to let Mike, of course, Fuji, go next.
As far as the rumors with the Colts, Mark, our connect that I talked to earlier said that Howie's just keeps just keeps won't let up with Ballard as far as 2 number 1 picks. Mm-hmm. As far as, we all think Howie thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. Like, who's going to give up 2 number 1 picks for Wentz? I would just take the number 1 and call it a day.
Yeah, I think it's all in the negotiating ploy right now, and I think that's nuts. Even if I have the most experience, like we just said with Frank Reich and Carson Wentz, I am not giving up 2 first-round picks for Carson Wentz. I'm even balking at a first-round pick for Carson Wentz. I think Howie should be ecstatic if he's able to get a second-round pick. Like, think about all the turmoil right now surrounding Carson Wentz and this Eagles organization. You just fired a head coach in an effort to make him happier, and he's still pissed off. So what are you supposed to do with Carson at this point? Why would I want that as another organization? If the Eagles actually get in return 2 first-round picks, I know that, yes, as an Eagles fan, I'll be happy. I'll be excited about that. I'll be shocked that they got 2 first round. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, if I'm the Colts, that shows how dumb the Eagles were at handling Carson Wentz this entire time. Because it tells me, like, if I'm buying that, then I have confidence that what I am buying is going to be great. If I'm spending that high dollar value, let's just say, if I'm giving you 2 first rounders, then I am confident that, guess what, Eagles? Guess what, Howie? I'm confident you were the problem. I know he's going to be great with me because I know what the hell I'm doing with a good quarterback. You guys can't do anything to help this guy. So it's almost a slap in the face. Yeah, hey, look, I'll take that slap in the face if it comes to 2 first-round picks. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, you got to think about it from the other perspective. That's a hefty price to pay. And if you can get a quarterback, 28, 29 years old, in the prime of his career, and quarterbacks now obviously play until they're 40, 43, want to play until they're 45, I'll gladly give up 2 first-round picks if I know I'm the guy that can, and man, I'm tired of hearing this, fix Carson Wentz and have him return to the Pro Bowl caliber, MVP caliber quarterback I know he could be.
It seems like a foregone conclusion that Wentz is eventually going to get traded, which is going to open the door for Jalen Hurts to be the starting quarterback for the Eagles. Or will it? Do you think that the Eagles are going to try to draft a quarterback with that number 6 pick? And do you think that the Eagles are going to get into the Russell Wilson sweepstakes? now that Russell Wilson is unhappy in Seattle.
Yeah, he wants more power. If Russell Wilson wants more power, the last place he wants to be is Philadelphia, where it's all Howie Roseman's power. It's intriguing. It's definitely enticing to get Russell Wilson, who makes any team a contender because he is that good. But no, I don't think they're going to get involved. So to answer that, I don't think they get involved with Russell Wilson, and I don't think Russell Wilson wants to get involved with the Eagles. For that matter, again, the power issue. As far as drafting a quarterback, it would be a very interesting play by Howie Roseman to trade up in the Fish-a-Wish scenario for Trevor Lawrence, or take a quarterback staying there at number 6 as guys will be available. The kid out of BYU is another guy that's on that list, obviously, whose names I'm just blanking on right now. But if Howie takes a quarterback, I think all Eagles fans will facepalm, and they should facepalm, because for a general manager to take a quarterback at that spot is not unlike a head coach who might be on his last leg as a head coach to drafting a quarterback as well, because it buys you time. If Howie drafts a quarterback here, it might buy him an extra year. You got to wait to see how this guy develops. Imagine for a second the quarterback he drafts just has the first half of the season that Carson Wentz had in 2016, rather. Remember, he looked amazing. He looked great. Then Lane Johnson went out with the 10-game suspension for PEDs, and then Carson Wentz looks human. But you saw what he had with at least a decent offensive line. He looked like a really good quarterback. That's all that would have to happen for Howie Roseman to look like a genius. Now, if Howie wanted to hit the reset button, which he might, they would draft a quarterback. It's possible. I'm not ruling anything out. But I think the direction that they do end up going, I think they go more on the offensive side of things in terms of getting another wide receiver. I know Jamar Chase is up there. He'll be around number 5, number 6, number 7. I know Devontae Smith is being looked at as a guy that will be around at that time as well. I think the last time I was on with you guys, we had talked about that. I think Howie's going to go after the idiot-proof wide receiver that has evaded him throughout his entire career as the Eagles general manager or president of football operations. So for him, I think he does go offensive. I think he does go with a splash. If they do get a first-round pick back in return for Carson Wentz, then I think that only furthers that idea of being able to take somebody earlier that can help you out offensively, because you could go get an offensive lineman, for instance, later in that first round or even in the second round with your pick, and make sure you're bolstering your offensive line as well.
All right. I want to get to 3 quick comments here before we keep moving on here. Tom says that Howie is aiming too high. And I think we've talked about that almost at nauseum at this point. And unfortunately, Howie's going to be around for God knows how long. There was interesting enough as Thomas brings it up, and I guess I'll ask after these 2 comments about Howie if I can remember here in my head. But Rick also states that Wentz could easily refuse anything he doesn't want and not report. The Howie saga will continue because he has no leverage. To one of the comments you have made, Tom says Justin Fields, and then Jamie put down there, why get a wide receiver when they don't have someone to throw him the ball?
Well, because you have Jalen Hurts. That's why. Because you like Jalen Hurts a lot. If you're Howie Roseman, you already drafted in the second round. I still think that's the route they go. We were just introducing a theory there. But if you have Jalen Hurts, who you think can be your franchise guy, who now reportedly is going to work out with your younger wide receivers anyway, then that's why you would draft somebody else to help out the guy you already drafted, hence trying to make you look even smarter. That
is true. And there was, so remembering now as you were making a comment here, so there was I guess an article that came out sometime this week, and it talked about that the problem still lies in-house. It wasn't Doug Peterson. It's not Carson Wentz. And a couple of players are kind of saying this, but not really saying it, of course, because they don't want any kind of controversy. So I'm wondering, Mark, is it Howie Roseman that is that problem, or is there another little hidden person within the organization that is the problem that no one wants to talk about?
I don't think it's Jeffrey Lurie, although, the owner, you could definitely look there. Another person hit it. I think the laundry guy, from what I hear, the guy that does the laundry is a jerk. He's a big jerk. He's a clubhouse poison. No, it's Howie. I think we all know who it is. It's Howie. He's the guy pushing the buttons. He's the guy that is pouring the honey in the ear of Jeffrey Lurie. He owns his ear, basically. Right. That's the guy that we all look at, and I think that's the obvious choice. And a lot of times, the obvious answer is usually the right answer. It's without a question Howie Roseman, because you got to look at him as the architect of this team. Even the team that won in 2017, it's amazing when you go back over that roster and you look at the ads that Howie Roseman had. He hit on every single one of them. LeGarrette Blount, Chris Long, those guys. He hit on every single guy that was brought into this roster. The Jay Ajayi trade, for instance. Every single guy was a home run that he brought in here to Philadelphia. That's never going to happen again. It's never going to happen. And if he does, like, if you just get a semblance of that, then yeah, maybe you could build a competitive roster again. But I don't think if you continuously fail on draft picks, which is still something that he has not been able to have success with, it's scouting talent, making trades, or doing contracts, how he's thriving. The one compliment Chip Kelly ever gave Howie Roseman was that he was a good cap guy. So just think of that for a second. But when it comes to constructing a roster with young talent that you're drafting and grooming and developing yourself, Howie Roseman has not been able to do that.
Fuji?
I'll just piggyback off what Mark said. I mean, Howie is the problem with this organization. Until Howie's gone from his relieved of his duties. I mean, I've been saying all along, you need a legitimate GM. And the Eagles haven't had a legitimate football guy since Tom Modrak, and that was back in 1999.
Wow, that's a name. Wow, I haven't thought about that name in a long time, but you're right. You're exactly right. Absolutely.
Mike?
I think they're going to need to go offensive line in this draft, especially when you look at a team like the Washington football team with what they did with the addition of Chase Young last year and their rise to fame in the NFC least this past year. I think that no matter who the quarterback is throwing the ball for the Philadelphia Eagles, you have to protect him. Look at Lane Johnson. Who knows what's going to happen with Jason Kelce? Look at Brooks. There's a lot of problems on that offensive line, and they got old together very quickly. So I personally think they need to go offensive line with that first pick.
Could be. Chris, sorry, I saw the comment here which says hashtag fire Howie. I think that's been going around now for a couple of weeks and maybe a couple of years. And Jamie says that this is Joe Banner part 2. Howie is turning the team against upper management. And Fuji's been talking about that for a while. Same exact thing. So interesting enough. And I guess, Mark, to get your take as well, when it came to Deuce Staley. So Deuce Staley, I think some of us obviously would like to see him as a head coach. Obviously, the Eagles had no intention, I can almost safely say, of making him the head coach. So now he moves on to Detroit. And to me, to ask you, I guess, to not only ask you about Deuce Staley and Detroit, but what is going on in Detroit that all of a sudden it's become like the hot zone where everybody wants to go to Detroit?
Well, did you hear Dan Campbell address the media in his introductory press conference? Like, I want to go play for that guy. I want to go play for that guy, and I played 1 year of organized football, and I sucked at it. I would suit up right now, almost 40 years old, and go out there and play for Dan Campbell. So to coach next to him also has to be, especially for a guy like Deuce Staley, who is extremely intense, loves the game of football, obviously, has given his life to it, and whether a player or a coach, that's the organization you want to go to. And also, we just talked about possibly two first-round picks and building a young team for the Eagles, maybe. Well, look what they just got back from Matthew Stafford. Why wouldn't you want to run to that spot? They're going to be doing something special, especially if you're a head coach, or especially if you have head coaching aspirations. That's where you want to be. They're going to be a successful franchise again, and they're going to build, and they're going to have success, and they're going to turn a lot of heads in the National Football League. So that's a great spot to actually go there and build your resume a little bit further, like a guy like Deuce Staley would want to do.
Okay, German.
Oh wow. Yeah, just to add something in, I mean, you look at a team like the Detroit Lions, who are going to play a last-place schedule next year, and that parallels what the Philadelphia Eagles were able to do when they won Super Bowl 52. They played a last-place schedule, and there could be some conspiracy theorists out there thinking that, maybe the Eagles Super Bowl 52 was fraudulent because they didn't really beat any good teams along the way. I mean, we here in Philly, we will take it. We've waited our entire lives to get that Super Bowl, right? Do you think that the Lions will benefit from a last place schedule next year with all the additions that they're making? Or do you think at the end, they're just still the Lions and they find a way to mess it up?
No, I think when you're going to look as different as the Lions are going to look this year, I think, for instance, there was going to be a time where the Browns all of a sudden snapped out of it. Like, my father-in-law's from Cleveland. He's a huge Browns fan. Watching that man suffer over the years is just, it's awful, right? It does relate. I can relate as an Eagles fan, obviously, but not to the Browns level, for instance. At sooner or later, they're going to turn it around. The Browns won a playoff game this year. They went into Pittsburgh and took care of the Steelers, right? Like, you watch that game unfold. You watch how the last couple of years have unfolded for the Browns. It's going to happen to the Lions eventually. Is Dan Campbell going to be a great head coach because he had a great introductory press conference? Obviously not. He said a lot of stuff when he took over for the Dolphins a couple of years ago, and guess what? They sucked. All right, even after he told his team that he would bleed for them. Like it's something that doesn't always work out because you're the most intense guy in the room. However, with all the assets that they have and the coaches that they have brought in, and Deuce, to go back to Deuce again and go back to the draft picks, you think about all that. You put that together and it starts to snowball a little bit. They'll start to gain some momentum. They'll actually start to put a winner on the field for Lions fans out there that have been waiting quite a long time to actually see that. So I think it is going to take some time. But right now, I think it is very possible that in the next 2-3 years, we're talking about the Lions as a team that a team that you have to take seriously now when you go out there in the NFC. But as far as the last place schedule, absolutely, there's never a time you don't benefit from playing a last place schedule. And as far as anybody that wants to talk about the Eagles' last place schedule in 2017, I don't give a damn. That parade was awesome.
It sure was. Fuji?
Well, as far as the Lions, I'm not sold on Jared Goff. Unless, maybe a change of scenery will do him good, just like it will Carson Wentz. But
yeah, it's possible. I think Jared Goff is – it's funny. Their careers, Carson Wentz and Jared Goff, their careers have kind of not mirrored one another at any means, but kind of I've seen Carson Wentz get terrible as Jared Goff has gotten better. And he was surrounded with a lot of good weapons out there, obviously, in Los Angeles. And he had a really good head coach, an offensive-minded head coach that I think can out-offensive mind Doug Peterson, certainly. Doug Peterson made his bones from being a great leader of men and knowing how to lead a locker room. Sean McVay is just a smart guy and a brilliant football mind. So going out there, and going from there to Detroit will be a little bit of a change of scenery for him, no doubt about that. But I don't think that Jared Goff is some terrible quarterback that needed a total reconstruction like Carson Wentz might need right now. I think in the eyes of the NFL, I think they told you that they look at Jared Goff as a more valuable asset. Or excuse me. The Lions looked at Jared Goff in those draft picks as a guy that, well, if he's going to be a better quarterback than Carson Wentz, and he's already played in the playoffs, he's won in the playoffs, he's gone to a Super Bowl, which Carson Wentz obviously did in 2017, albeit the MVP caliber year that he had. Right. If all that stuff is going to be tagged along with Jared Goff to move him, I almost feel like the Eagles would have to give up more in order to move Carson Wentz.
It's a possibility.
That's very true. We got about 2 minutes left with you here, Mark. And again, we appreciate you coming on with us tonight. And by the way, folks, don't forget the Farzy Show Monday through Friday from 6 to 7 a.m. on YouTube. So not only follow him, obviously, on Twitter, follow Mark on Twitter, and also go to the YouTube and subscribe and like, obviously, when it comes over to YouTube. Therefore, you won't miss an episode like the rest of us do. So hopefully you guys end up, even if you miss the show in the morning, the great thing is you'll be able to view it at the 7 o'clock hour, 8 o'clock hour. You can see Mark all day long. And that's the awesome part as far as having YouTube and your own show that you can just see Mark all the time. Two things to get here. 2 comments before I ask you my last question here. Jared Goff is limited without McVay, and he will struggle. From Ms. Jackson, and she follows up with, if Wentz had some wide receivers, he might be able to perform. Both good comments here. So, Mark, and we would love to have you back on because obviously now the Phillies, by the way, they're due to report here momentarily. I did see the truck pull up to Spectrum Field.
Yeah, man.
And made its way down here to Clearwater. I'm excited because they are going to let some fans back in there. So it's going to be limited seats, but I'm hoping to see the squad before they go back up to Philly. What do you think as far as, and we'll get back to another episode when it comes to JT, obviously to sign there and Didi, but how do you feel the Phillies will, with the limited transactions they made this offseason, how will they fare this season compared to last season?
Well, they obviously addressed the bullpen by getting a couple arms in there that they needed to do, but I watched the Phillies last year rebuild their entire bullpen. They tried a second time with a different bullpen, and that still sucked. So I'm happy they have JT Realmuto back. I'm glad that happened. I'm glad Didi Gregorius is back. They still got to figure out what they're doing in center field. But as far as this Phillies team goes, I hate this philosophy. I'm not a wait and see guy, but I have been disappointed over the last 5-6 years with the Phillies, thinking that a guy like Scott Kingery is going to break out, thinking that Rhys Hoskins is going to get back to his power swing. Looking at a guy like Bryce Harper come in here and lead the charge and all that. I have kept my fingers crossed for these guys, and I'm disappointed every single time. And to think about this team, a decade since you're talking about a playoff Phillies team, that's insane to me. Like, I can't get my hopes up for this Phillies team. I'm going to love them like I always do. I'm going to wait with Great anticipation. I love seeing the truck arrive at Spectrum Field every single year. I love seeing it leave Philadelphia to go down. Like I get giddy about that. Like if there's any part of me that is still just a little kid when it comes to sports, it's about Philly's spring training. But I'm not going to go to the nth degree and say that this team is going to all of a sudden make the playoffs. I'm not going to say that their bullpen's fixed. I'm not going to say that the rotation is reliable. I'm not going to say that Scott Kingery's finally going to break out as a utility guy that Joe Girardi just pointed out yesterday is going to go back to that role of being the utility guy for the Phillies. I want to get excited, and I want to have great anticipation about a great season, but I'm just excited to have baseball back at this point. I'll see what they produce over the next couple, or the first couple of weeks of the season when we see what we have, and hopefully the bullpen this year for Joe Girardi is not a matter of pick your poison.
Okay. And before I leave you here, Jamie has one last comment. She says, Abdul Herrera was on a practice field the other day with Bohm and Nola. Do you think he will be back with the team?
If you're asking my prediction for what the Phillies do, my prediction is that the Phillies bring him back. I don't want them to. I'm not a big guy on I know that second chance, everyone deserves a second chance and all that. And I hate the argument that somebody made a mistake. Like for me, and I actually talked about this morning on my show, like for me, making a mistake is bringing the wrong pen to work. Like that's a mistake. Like assaulting a woman is not a mistake. Like that's egregious. That's an egregious act. So I'm done with Odubel Herrera. The reason I say he will be back, the Phillies are not done with him, is $10.5 million that would just be there that you got to pay anyway, even if he doesn't play, and then $2.5 million on top of that you'd have to buy out his contract at the end of the year. So you figure it's about $13 million. The Phillies just don't want to light on fire. They'd rather give him an opportunity. I'll say this, before any assault charge, Odubel Herrera was one of the dumbest, lowest baseball IQ ball players I'd ever seen, ever, exclamation point. To me, the only reason they're doing this is because they're impatient. They don't want Adam Hazley to progress for whatever reason. The guy's an 8th overall pick. Like, I think you also made a pretty decent investment there. If Adam Hazley progressed, if he wasn't hurt last year, if he didn't have issues of his own right, this wouldn't be a question. Odubel Herrera would be gone. If Roman Quinn wasn't someone that was always injured, Odubel Herrera wouldn't even be thought about anymore. And if Scott Kingery, look, I don't expect anything from him in center field. It's a bad spot. I hate second baseman in the outfield. I hate that idea. But if he progressed also at that position, then he would be the center fielder. The fact that the Phillies put themselves in this position is egregious, and it shows not just from this regime with Dave Dombrowski saying that it's ultimately going to be up to the ownership. Right. That was the report, excuse me. Dave Dombrowski just said they're still looking at Odubel Herrera. But as far as I look at it, they're in this spot because of negligence. And we might have to watch him play center field badly. We might have to watch him play center field and take terrible at-bats and have horrible hacks at the plate, all for a guy that you don't even want to root for because of what has happened in the past.
No, you're exactly right. You're dead on as far as the points. And I mean, we'll see. The drama of Philadelphia will continue on, not only, again, with the Eagles, but obviously with the Phillies, because things change in Philly so much. It changed like the weather. So who knows? Right now, it's very chilled in Philly. Hopefully, it'll heat up and make things better when the spring and summer roll back around. But it's going to be tough either way. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out with Philadelphia. But Mark, thank you again for coming on tonight. We really do appreciate it. We know that you have to get up at dark 30 to get your show prepared for the morning. So we do appreciate you coming on. And everyone, please check out on YouTube, again, The Farzy Show with Marc Farzetta. You can see right there in the background, 6 to 7 a.m., Monday through Friday. Again, like, subscribe so you do not miss anything whatsoever. Mark, once again, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, you could like you said, you could watch me all day. Just look at that. This right there. All day long. Social media across all platforms, all that fun stuff, absolutely. And how do you guys let Angel talk about the weather in Tampa? Like when we're shoveling crap all day long. What is that? How do you allow that?
He made the smart move and took off the Tampa. While we're freezing our asses off of it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
I will not complain, Mark, before I let you go. I won't complain whatsoever because yesterday during the Super Bowl parade, it was about 86 degrees, so it was nice.
Well, yeah, we're having a boat parade on the Schuylkill the next time somebody wins here.
All right, Mark, thank you so much for coming on. We do appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure, guys. Have a good one. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
See you.
Take care.
All right, that was Mark. And always a lot of fun with Mark. Always a lot of fun. So we do appreciate Mark coming on. And as you guys seen here momentarily, oh, by the way, one, of course, other than the apology later on to the professor up there, Mr. Jackson, I apologize. I saw a picture earlier on, and I guess I saw someone else in the picture, and I'm pretty sure it was female. So my apologies to Mr. Jackson. Also, I forgot to mention at the very beginning of the show, we will have Time's Yours towards the end part of the show, so you guys can feel free to ask us anything whatsoever, what's on your mind, from sports to personal, and maybe not that super personal, but personal stuff. So we have a lot of fun with you guys towards the end of the show, because I'm pretty sure one of these two are going to end up getting fired up. The one good thing here, and I see the comments are coming back up. One is with Tom. Thanks, Tom and Tony, for Fuji.
What's up, Tone? How are you?
So one thing I will say, it's been exciting around here because everybody knows the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are now your Super Bowl 55 champions, and you can almost pretty much see that in the making from the very beginning when Tom decided to sign here in Tampa. One thing we'll be talking about, of course, in a little bit is the final drive before the end of the half, which Sherman brought out a great point on how much KC could or could have not done. But before we get to that, also one other mention I do want to mention as I switch gears here, this next segment coming up, which is with our friends and actually our coach as well. If you guys want to become a podcaster or are a podcaster and you want life coaching experience, if you want to be a better podcaster, you need a studio, whatever the case may be, reach out to John William Crichton. Reach out to John Barchard and Vince Quinn at lastoutmedia.com. Type in lastoutmedia.com and it'll bring you up to their website here. We're always here for you. It's a podcast studio for the creative community. And you guys can scroll through. You can see prices as far as the coaching, the availability, all the good fun stuff. So by all means, please reach out to lastoutmedia at lastoutmedia.com. We appreciate you guys so much for what they do for us. So one thing that I did have the opportunity, and it doesn't come really often, but I did have the opportunity of talking to a local anchor down here in Tampa, the CBS Sports Station, or the CBS Station 10 Tampa Bay. And I had a lot of fun talking to this guy, even off camera. A great personality, Jabari Thomas, and I'll bring you here the lineup from the channel itself. So if you guys are ever in the Tampa area, if you want to look for it, 10tampabay.com, there you will see the host in the morning, which is Caitlin Lockerbie. She is the host, along with Courtney Robinson, Grant Gilmore, and Jabari Thomas. And Jabari is the guy that I had interviewed. A very fun interview I'm going to bring up here momentarily. But those guys, it's a different, as I tell them, it's a very different morning show. It's the political side is about 5 minutes long. Everything else is nothing but fun. It's the most different, entertaining news you could ever get here in Tampa. So with that being said, I'll run the interview here with Jabari Thomas. And if, unfortunately, with my audio, you may not hear it as well, as in case you need to turn up the volume a little bit, please turn it up. It's just that when the masks are on, it's kind of hard to hear. But here is the interview with Jabari. All right, so I'm here with Jabari Thomas of 10 Tampa Bright Side in the morning from 4:30 to 7.
4:30 to 7 every weekday. You gotta be up to check it out, baby.
And if you don't see the show in the morning, it's a different type of news. And I think I've said this before to you guys. It's not just your normal news. You have fun in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, at least for us, the fans and viewers, we appreciate it. So we thank you guys for what you do. You, Caitlin, Grant, Courtney, so we thank you guys so much. And thank you for taking the time to come with, or at least to speak to me today.
Yeah.
I'm here on your set, so I'm pretty sure that the weather's been nice, which we showed for you guys.
It was cold this morning, but now we kind of Florida weather now. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, but it is nice out there. We are down here in Florida. Mm-hmm. It's nice, especially in Tampa, where it's usually sunshine all the time anyway, so it's nice to see at least a change in the weather from normally we're down in the summertime.
Right, yeah, for sure, yeah.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You've been on here, I guess, a couple years now.
Yeah.
And you also have seen how the Bucs have turned from, I guess, worst now to first. We saw the experience last year with Jameis Winston, which it could almost end up working out, but the 30 for 30 pretty much shot him in the foot. And so now you get Tom Brady, who comes in this year and does a phenomenal job with the team, obviously getting here to the Super Bowl. So with you being here in the Tampa St. Pete area, how's been the vibe since now them going to the Super Bowl compared to, like, let's just say even 2-3 years ago?
Well, I mean, like, just moving here from a couple of years, it's been completely different. Like, as far as the vibe, I think the fan base grew even more now that Brady and Gronkowski are now in the mix. I don't even watch football that much, and I'm a huge fan now, just because of how they turned everything around. And like you said, like, Bucs who? Now I'm like, Kansas City who? Exactly. The Chiefs.
Now, the one thing I wish kind of like when the camera angle when you see in the morning when you're watching the show, you unfortunately get to see the Chiefs kingdom. And Grant, the one day blocked it.
That was funny.
But it really is like the vibe here. It's more positive, I think, than ever. Obviously, we've been through COVID for 365 days now. That's hampered a lot of things that normally go on in Tampa. But as far as when it comes to the Bucs themselves, we appreciate as far as what the city have done, what the Bucs have done. I am myself an Eagles fan, but I do appreciate at least having the Bucs in the Super Bowl,
right?
Which is at least nice to see. Tom Brady, of course, being the greatest of all time. He can win number 7 at this point, 10 Super Bowl appearances. I mean, it's a lot to say for one individual.
Yeah.
But and if I understand correctly, you're also from New Orleans originally?
Shreveport originally. I lived in New Orleans before I got here for a few years. But yes, tomato. I mean,
exactly.
Come on.
But now, New Orleans, of course, you guys know that Drew Brees is thinking about retiring. So I don't know if that affects you any way, shape, or form as far as when it comes to the Saints. But Drew Brees, I guess he'll be done by the end of the year. But
yeah,
again, it's nice to see that you guys add to the community, especially with your morning show in the morning.
Thank you.
We appreciate it because you can talk about politics, don't get me wrong, but it's nice to break up the routine in the morning, especially when you have to get up at 30 like you guys do, like I do for a normal job. It's tough to walk into where it's kind of negative, kind of see all the time, or just a negative attitude, where you guys just make it so much more fun. So
thank you so much. Yeah, no problem.
So we're hoping for some great weather come Sunday.
I believe so. Yeah, Grant says it's gonna maybe a little rainy in the morning when I gotta work, of course. But other than that, it's supposed to be a great day. Yeah.
Well, we hope so. So, Jory, again, thank you for taking the time.
No problem, man. Go Bucs!
Let's go Bucs! Thanks to Jabari and the 10 Tampa Bay morning crew for allowing me to interview Jabari. Again, a lot of fun. It was a huge turnout. The NFL experience, I will say, I'm not a Bucs fan. Don't get me wrong. But as far as being in a host city for a Super Bowl, lots of fun. Tons of fun, even with COVID in it. And yes, 6-foot mask, blah, blah, blah. All the good fun stuff was happening. But I will say it was extremely cool to see all the stuff that went on in Tampa. And Jane Castro, which is the mayor, she did a fantastic job as far as, you couldn't do anything in Tampa without somebody knowing about it. So, and of course now, that was prior to the game on Sunday. It was on Friday morning, and we already know what ended up happening as far as when it comes to the Bucs themselves. So there is a clip that I will show here, which is 2 before we get to the final drive. One is, it pretty much wraps the entire season of how the Bucs performed and where they got to. And then it's going to be followed by the actual Bucs parade, which was becoming the norm down here in Tampa, which is now considered a new title town. And Sherman, you called it something else. What was it?
Boston of the South.
That's what it was. So, Rays, came short of winning World Series, but again, Rays won, Rowdies won, Tampa Bay Lightning, obviously, are defending Stanley Cup champions, and now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So here's the video when it comes to Tampa Bay and their season, how it all wrapped up.
It's just one of the greatest moments in sports. You just don't get this very often.
There is another ball. We're putting everything on the stage today.
268 games to get here. Let's sit back and enjoy it.
Sacked at the 21-yard line. Shaq Barrett. It's Gronkowski. Back again.
And boy, did Mahomes have no time to throw.
Touchdown Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we sack him at the 50-yard line. Wow, he's covered. Fournette. Touchdown.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a second Super Bowl title in franchise history.
Let's get it. We the ball.
And of course, that happened on Sunday. And then this is what it looked like yesterday under blue skies and 86 degrees. Sorry, guys, don't kill me.
Came in this way, there's a lot of boats. Says anyone working today? No way.
How does it feel to be undefeated in the playoffs?
We going for 2. We're the number 1 team in the world.
So pretty amazing stuff. And if you look around, obviously the city here, it's been known now as Tampa Bay. And that's because obviously, again, all 3 teams winning. So the sign itself, it's been talked about. They also are now calling them the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, you name it, everything Champa instead of Tampa. As you can see with the fans there celebrating down there at Curtis Hickson Park. That was another place where they had the folks as well, and then all the boats are in the water. And when they did the overhead shot from the helicopter, it was ridiculous the amount of people. Now, I will say, being down at the parade for the Tampa Bay Lightning when they won it, I mean, blows away the numbers from the Bucs. And I've kidded around all season long, as the rest of us have here, that I've seen one Buck fan because they have their address as One Buck Place. The first time I've seen many more fans. But believe it or not, as far as when it came to Eagles, obviously, because it was their first one, it was much more massive, a lot more fun, I will say. And again, because I'm a homer, I'm from Philly, so I'll make sure that I bring out the Eagles. It was a different experience. But the other thing as well is the energy itself within Tampa felt just like it did in Philly. And that's why, to me, the Bucs were going to end up winning it all. And obviously they did. And the second time I was able to take the picture with the Vince Lombardi trophy, the first time I did it, Eagles win. Second time, the Bucs win. So I don't know. Next year, I don't think I'm going to LA. I'm not going to give them a win over there.
I'm gonna have to beg the death for you there.
Okay.
Tampa, Florida, all Florida's all transplants. There's only one passion of Philly sports. So I gotta disagree with you there, Angel. This is Philly. We're from Philly. Nobody likes us and we don't care. Let me just put my stamp of approval, disapproval on that. That's coming from the Godfather, Vito Corleone.
But Vito, don't you love, before we get into the final drive here, because I know we're itching to get to it, but from what I understand, I think Sherman did say before that you have a passion and love in your heart for Tom Brady. Am I wrong, Sherman?
A passion and love. I mean, when we were on the air a couple weeks ago, when it was the Buccaneers at the Green Bay Packers, I believe that he said that he has to go with Tom Brady and the Bucs. And when Phil Andrews was on the show, I think that, he said, how can you bet against Tom Brady? Now, I'm not going to bring up the actual text of the show. Now, of course, you're picking Tom Brady doesn't mean that you love the guy, but I will mention this, whether you love it or not. How disrespectful was it for Tom Brady to throw the Lombardi trophy to Rob Gronkowski? I thought that was totally uncalled for. I get it. They won. He was intoxicated. But, have some respect for the ultimate prize in the National Football League.
That's not the actual trophy anyway.
No, it was.
There's like 4 or 5 of them.
No, but the rumor was that it wasn't, but they actually had the confirmation that it was the actual Super Bowl trophy. So yeah, there was a lot of people that were really upset, including his daughter. There's a video that's out there with Tom Brady, his daughter saying, "Daddy, no," and he tossed it anyways. And this was after a bunch of avocado tequila drinks that he was having. So yeah, I don't think I would be, especially you're winning number 7 for your own self, the second one for the Bucs, and if that thing gets tossed into the Hillsborough River, I don't know. There's going to be a lot of people jumping in after that trophy. I will say that much. Go ahead, Mike.
Nah, never mind.
Right, say it.
Okay.
Time's yours, Mike.
I was going to say, if I was intoxicated, I'd probably throw it around too. If I won 7 Super Bowls. But that's just me.
No, it's true. Now, I will say again, because with Mike, and listen, again, the passion for the Eagles will never go away from this guy. But because I live down here, to be fair, I report it for everyone, whether it's the Lightning or the Rays or whatever else, because we do go around the league. So, as much as we love our Philly sports, but we do go around the league as well. David says the throwing a trophy, poor taste. So, yeah, I'm not in agreement of him tossing the Super Bowl trophy, obviously the Vince Lombardi trophy. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of it, and I'm pretty sure no one else is. So, the professor. The final drive, I'll get to Tony here, I'm sorry. Mike and Tuxedo nursing it.
Which Mike? There's 2 Mikes on this show.
That would be you there, Vito. That would be you. So, Sherman, we talked about the final drive. So, as as we saw it, the end of the first half did not go the way it should have gone. So explain the final drive here.
Okay, so the Kansas City Chiefs ended up losing the game 31-9, and there's no denying that. Tampa Bay was clearly the better team, whether you want to talk about the penalties in the game being one-sided or not. But I want to focus and talk a little bit about that final drive of the first half, all right? Kansas City, they find a way to score, albeit not a touchdown. They score a field goal. Now it's 14-6 with 61 seconds left on the clock. Kansas City has 2 timeouts. Tampa Bay has 1 timeout. Kansas City kicks off the ball. The Tampa Bay guy gets the ball. He runs it back to the Tampa Bay 29. Now there's 55 seconds left in the clock. Kansas City has 2 timeouts. Tampa Bay has 1 timeout. First play, shotgun formation for Tampa Bay. They run it to Fournette for no gain. Now, I don't know about you at home, but if you're anything like me, on Super Bowl Sunday, when that happened, I'm like, call timeout, call timeout, call timeout. And what did Kansas City do? They called timeout. And I'm like, good, okay, maybe Mahomes and the boys will get another shot to do this. Next play, Tampa Bay has an 8-yard pass, so now it's 3rd and short. Call timeout again. And they do. And I'm like, okay, this is great. Well, we all know what happened from there. You give a 43-year-old man like Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers too many shots, he's going to make you pay. They end up getting the first down. They end up getting the questionable pass interference call, and then they get another pass interference call, and they end up scoring a touchdown to make it 21-6 at the half, which makes it a much more non-manageable game. Now, I'm thinking to myself, during the Super Bowl, Kansas City did the right thing. But when I slept on it and woke up and thought about it 48 hours later, Angel, what in the world was Kansas City thinking, giving Tampa Bay and Tom Brady all of these opportunities to get down the field and put more points on the board? Worst case scenario, Tampa Bay doesn't score. It's 14-6 at the half. Sorry for all you people who had 4 and 6 on your block pool.
That's true.
Everybody's calling timeout because they're hoping for 4 and 3 or 4 and 4 or 4 and 9 at the end of the first half. Forget about that. Kansas City was getting the ball to start off the second half. If you go in down 14-6, and look what they did in the beginning of the second half. They went down the field. They scored another field goal. If that score is 14-9 instead of 21-9, it becomes a much more competitive Super Bowl for the second half. Now, who knows? Would Kansas City have come back to win the game the way Tampa Bay's defense played? Probably not. Mahomes was running for his life all night in that game. Mahomes had 5 rushes for 33 yards. But I want to know what the viewers think about that. Angel, I want to know what you think about that now that we've had time to sleep on it and after watching the game. And the game was terrible, by the way, unless you're a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, right? I'm curious to hear the opinions as to whether Kansas City did the right move by calling those timeouts or not. Because I'll tell you what, 2 weeks before, when Tampa Bay was playing Green Bay, Tampa Bay got that interception with under a minute to go. And what did they do? They ended up throwing a 40-yard pass to Scotty Miller. And guess what? The score of that game at halftime, instead of it being 21-6 like it was in the Super Bowl, was 21-10. So I want to know what the fans think of this. Mike, I want to know what you think. Angel, I want to know what you think. Was it the right move by the Kansas City Chiefs to call those 2 timeouts?
I will say, and I didn't believe that the KC shouldn't have called those 2 timeouts. I thought it was pretty much nuts the way it ended up happening. I didn't see it coming at all. I think it's the worst case scenario as far as when it came to Andy Reid and Kansas City. The same way with Pat Mahomes. The worst game I've probably seen him play in a long time for his young career. And it's unbelievable because I thought it was going to be a lot closer. I mean, we called close numbers, I believe, the whole entire time. I called it 31-21, 31-29, turned out to be 31-9, and it was going to take 30 points in order to beat KC. But I will say that I couldn't believe that Andy actually basically allowed Tampa to give him time to score, which Tampa did do. And you're right, Mike, when it came down to with Green Bay game, it was the same thing. They had a scoring drive leading going into the half. Now, mind you, at this point as well, just before they added on the 2 additional penalties, they were already at 8 penalties for some, I think it was like 65 yards before, no, 75 yards, 60 yards, before adding 2 more before the half to go to basically 10 for 95 yards. I mean, that's something you would expect from Kansas City, especially from Andy Reid. Those guys weren't in that game. Again, I know we're going to talk about Britt Reid here momentarily, and maybe that had a part of it. But I can't believe that Andy Reid would actually call timeouts. It was almost, and you never want to hear about people throwing games. And I know also people talk about, I guess we're going to incorporate the penalties here as well. There was a lot of people saying that obviously, Tom Brady, here we go again with New England. They paid the refs. They paid the refs to look at the penalties and everything else. And we saw it with the Eagles Super Bowl. Same exact thing. And we talked about it, obviously, and before the three of us got to know each other. But, as fans, we talked about it. Oh, my God, here we go again. It's happening again. Patrick Mahomes' mom put out a tweet and said, how much money did they put in the ref's pocket for the penalties for Tampa to win? But no offense, as anybody would say, they had 60 minutes of football to get into the end zone, and they didn't. They just completely fell short from getting in there. 3 field goals is not what anyone expected from Kansas City. So to me, that was probably the dumbest thing KC could have done. And you're talking about Tampa Bay, who's adjusted. And by the way, the last time the Bucs lost, 7 games prior to that, and 8 games including the Super Bowl, was to the Chiefs. So what did Todd Bowles and that defense do? Stepped up their game because they almost came back to win. And almost doesn't win you a game. But Todd Bowles figured out the mistakes they made the first time around. And they made that on the halftime show when the weekend was inside looking at those mirrors. And one of the videos that he did, that looked like KC's defense. They're all just in the field like, hey, who's covering who? Where are you going? Are we running a 4-3? Is it 3-4? Andy, what the hell's going on? That's the way it looked on Sunday. And I was just completely surprised. It is hard to win back-to-back titles. It is extremely hard. Ironically, the last team to do it, again, Tom Brady with the New England Patriots, 0-2-0-3. So that goes to show you how long and how far it takes for you to become back-to-back champions. Will KC get back to next year? More than likely. Let's not forget, I guess, either that Patrick Mahomes played with a turf toe that he had successful surgery on today. But I agree with you, Sherman. I would never, ever, ever have thought in a million years that's what Andy Reid wanted to do because, man, did Tampa Bay take advantage of it. And so, Fuji, I'll leave it on you. I see Tony's comment here. But, yeah, I'm in complete disarray just like you were, Sherman. I couldn't forget. I couldn't believe it.
The biggest shock was Andy Reid having 3 times out that late in the half. Well, let's let history repeat itself. I think Andy Reid with, the Britt Reid situation, he just, look at Garrett when he passed away in 2012. How did Andy Reid coach the 2012 season his last year with the Eagles? He just did it.
Right.
Yeah, it was a dumpster fire of a season, but, business is business. He's got a profession, and Andy Reid is a true professional. But it looked like Andy Reid all over again with the Eagles with the clock management. A total dumpster fire. But my thing is, let's take our hat off to Todd Bowles for his defensive scheme. He brought the defense, they brought it. That front line, they sacked Patrick Mahomes 3 times for 27 yards. That defense was came to play. I mean, Todd Bowles challenged Patrick Mahomes to throw the ball. They shut down Tyreek Hill. They shut down the running game. And Travis Kelce was solid, but that offense couldn't get nothing going, period. That Tampa defense was just lights out, flat out.
Kansas City was 3 for 13 on third downs in the Super Bowl. So it just goes to show you that Tampa Bay's defense was ready to put up when the pickings were right. And, Tampa Bay, look, they won the game. The thing that boggled my mind about Andy Reid is, was he paying attention to what Tampa Bay had done on the 3 previous drives?
No.
I don't think
so.
One of them, 75 yards for a touchdown. One of them, a 69-yard drive, which ended up on a 4th and goal where they didn't get into the end zone, but that could have been a touchdown. And another drive of 38 yards where they were scoring a touchdown. You just don't give Tom Brady all this extra time to potentially move your team down the field. And Fuji, what you're talking about with the state of mind that Andy Reid is in, I get it 100% with all that going on. But you know what? The Kansas City Chiefs, there are 53 guys who are going on the field who, you know what? Sometimes you got to pick your head coach up. And those 53 guys did not come to play in the game. Tyreek Hill was minimal in the game. Patrick Mahomes was running for his life. And I know that the one offensive lineman was hurt, and Tampa Bay was feasting on him. Look, Tampa Bay is a team that might not have even made the playoffs. After they lost to Kansas City in that game, they were 7-5, and they were right in the mix of things.
Yeah. They
had that last bye, and what did they do? They beat up on some poor teams in the NFC for the last 4 games. They beat Atlanta twice, they beat Minnesota, and they beat Detroit. So that's how they got to 11-5, similar to what the Eagles did, right? Mm-hmm. Think about what the Eagles did last year. They were in a position where they might not make the playoffs or not. And what did they do last year? They beat the Giants twice, they beat the Washington football team, and they beat Dallas. But the only difference is they had Tom Brady, and who did we have? Carson Wentz, and eventually Nate Sudfeld when he was knocked out of the game.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. Fuji, any rebuttal?
Well, hey, look, I mean, players step up when it's time to show up. I mean, like you said, Tampa Bay had a soft schedule down the road, but Brady's money. Why do I like him? Love him or hate him, but take my hat off to the guy. Whether it's Deflategate, Spygate, this gate, Watergate, whatever. Brady is money.
Not that he is. So I want to. So here's a question, I guess, for again the viewers and for us here sitting talking about the game here. So now, and Sherman, I guess I'll ask you here, but now we have obviously Tom Brady 6 Super Bowl wins with New England, 20 years with New England. Now he's going into his second decade here of playing football. Now he's with Tampa Bay. He's got one more year left with his contract. He had an option for a third. I believe Tampa will renegotiate his contract and all the good fun stuff. But now that he didn't do it with Belichick and crew in New England, does this solidify that Tom Brady now can legitimately say that he is the greatest of all time?
It's hard. It's really hard to argue against that. When you have 7 rings, I do we cheat him and how, right? As the Three Stooges would say. I mean, it's hard to argue with the 7 rings. And look, even though Tom Brady had 3 touchdowns in the Super Bowl, he had a relatively easy game. I think he was only sacked 1 time, and it's not like he put up these ridiculous numbers in the game. But nobody's mentioned this, and I can't believe that they didn't even mention this in the Super Bowl. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, no longer the Yucks, they were a wild card team. A wild card team has not won a Super Bowl since 2010, I believe, when the Packers did it, right? They went into Washington. They won that game. They went into New Orleans after New Orleans smacked them around, not once but twice, and Tampa Bay took it to them. And then they went into the frozen tundra at Green Bay where Aaron Rodgers, the league MVP, everybody figured that Tampa Bay would lose that game, and they lost that game too. And then to put the cherry on top, they played a game at home, and I don't even think home field advantage was that much of an advantage in this game.
Right.
But they went up against the best team in the league in the Kansas City Chiefs, and they made Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill look average. Kansas City, as you said, did not get into the end zone once. The score was 31-9.
Well, like I said, Tampa Bay laid the blueprint on how to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. They learned how to shut down Patrick Mahomes. Now, the whole NFL knows the blueprint.
And hopefully the Eagles do that next year when we play the Kansas City Chiefs, because we'll be playing the AFC West.
No, that's what I believe so. And it was funny because as Fuji just said there were saying that, can you get the blueprint from the Bucs? Because you've seen what Brady has done. You're not going to get the same blueprint. You think you're going to be able to do what Bruce Arians did this year, but you're not going to do it because Tom Brady has changed up his game so much that he can come up with a better playbook for next year. So will Tampa be there come next year? It's a great probability. If Nick Sirianni can get things turned around with the Eagles, who knows? New York can get things turned around. Definitely, unfortunately, DCU, because Ron Rivera doesn't have to worry about as far as his cancer treatment. And God bless him that, he was able to beat cancer. And that's a great thing. But expect Ron Rivera to be Ron Rivera of old come next year. So it's going to be a hell of a run come next year on the NFC side alone. And we're not even thinking about, again, will this COVID nonsense keep going with it going forward? Will they change things up? Obviously, with baseball, they decided to keep, which Sherman, I do believe it irritates the crap out of you, that they're doing the extra inning again with the runner on second. Again. It makes absolutely no sense. But again, that's what MLB does. The one thing they didn't bring back was the designated hitter. They took that away. So that's done. But I think it's one of those silly things. Again, it's going to be talked about. I just found out today, obviously the Raptors are going to stay here for the remainder of the season, which those guys don't mind whatsoever because obviously it's blistering cold up there in Canada. It's warm down here. But Canada basically told them, you guys can stay there because we don't want you infecting the rest of Canada over here. So, I mean, things change by the day. It changes by the minute. Who knows? But as far as Todd Bowles, what those guys did to make KC look ridiculous. How many times have we ever seen Patrick Mahomes with this just dumbfounded look? And you can see it while he was on the field, when he was on the sideline. I mean, he just did not look like, the comfortable, colorful character that we see week in and week out. So it's amazing to me what Tampa Bay did to shut him down. And kudos to, Tampa Bay. Obviously, they beat every Super Bowl MVP to get there, including, I guess, if Tom was to beat himself for the most part. But again, you have to give it to the man. You cannot argue that you can't say cheating, none of the good fun stuff. You're with a brand new team. He got him there. He promised you to get him there. He pretty much finished what he started. You got 7 rings. I mean, he's 3 from doing one of these numbers where he's got all 10 rings. I mean, it's freaking ridiculous. But again, kudos to Tampa Bay. Kudos to Tom Brady. Obviously, I know a lot of New England fans didn't want to root for him. At the very end, they said it. Obviously, New England fans were rooting for Tom. And again, you can't take it away from a man. I think it's actually Fuji's best friend, but Fuji doesn't want to mention that. It's okay.
Easy there, Tampa bandwagon jumper. Hey, by the way, the Dodgers beat the Rays. The Rays didn't beat the Dodgers.
Right. No, I said that they came up short. But again, I never said I was a Bucs fan. Never said I was a Bucs fan.
I'm not saying, but you're.
Look, you gotta expect the Tampa Bay is going to be back there next year. I mean, with Atlanta, Carolina, and Drew Brees potentially retiring, which team poses a threat to Tampa Bay next year? I don't see any of them posing a threat to Tampa Bay. Now in the playoffs, that's something else, but Tampa Bay is going to be there at least for next year.
Yeah,
well, the Saints are about $70 million over the cap. So,
but the Saints still have to figure out who they want as far as a quarterback. One. Drew Brees had stated that before he left, it was for Jameis Winston. But unfortunately, I don't believe that backup quarterback has been waiting for how many seasons now? Almost damn near 7? And you mean to tell me you're going to give him the back door? Be like, listen, I know you've been here, Tapeson, for a while, but Jameson here, 30 for 30, and I'm not talking about ESPN. It's going to be one taking over for New Orleans. I don't believe that for anything else. Taysom Hill, I believe, is your starting quarterback, unless Drew Brees decides to come back for one more year. But at this point, all signs point that he is not coming back and that he's just taking additional time to figure out what he wants to do in the offseason with his families. Fuji, if you want to make a different argument about that one, I mean, who knows? Unless maybe we'll hear rumors about Russell Wilson going to New Orleans.
Oh, there's a guy in this city where there's a football team in this town trying to get rid of a quarterback.
Yeah,
What's
but
his
New
name?
Orleans ain't pick him up.
What's his name? Carson Wentz.
New Orleans is not picking up that price tag. New Orleans is already bad in the salary cap as well, so they're not going to pick him up.
Oh, I know. I'm just being smart.
I see a question up here from Tom, and of course, this is time's yours for you guys before. Oh, and hold on, Tom, before I get to your comment here. So I did tease in the very beginning that the professor deserves an apology, and I will get to that right now because I do remember that I did say that. So now, here's the funny thing. As we talk about different things on our show, like Lifestyle Media, and obviously a small company like For the Bay Clothing Company, and this is where I have to apologize to the professor. The professor, I completely forget that the Mrs. Sherman also has a small business, and how in the world do I forget that to not mention that on the show? So my apologies, Professor, for not mentioning Mrs. Sherman, but if you would like to mention her business, I would be more than happy than to concede the floor to you.
Oh, that is so fantastic. Her website is burksboutique.com. What you'll start to see maybe on the Facebook and the Twitter page, I'll start to post it on there. So she sells lots of clothing for women. So if you're interested, go and check it out. She goes on live normally on Thursday nights and Sunday nights. And thank you so much for the plug. I really appreciate that.
Not a problem. So, Mrs. Sherman, by all means, I will take you out to a virtual dinner, you and, of course, the guru himself. And we'll do a virtual dinner because it dawned upon me. I'm like, oh, my God, I can't believe all this time has passed. And I didn't even think about it, even though I know that obviously you guys have the show and you help her out. So, again, by all means, plug it in because it's something that we need to promote. Obviously, small business, especially when it's here and when it's family. Tom, the question is, and of course, this segment, by the way, you guys also brought to you by Last On Media, but more importantly, it is time's yours. If you guys have questions for us, fire away. Tom asked, since leaving Philly, what do you miss the most, and what would you bring from Philly to Tampa so you could have every day? So the good thing is, one thing I will say that Wawa has been here, which is the only thing that I do miss is actually having to be able to run inside Wawa and grabbing a hot dog that's already prepared, because they don't sell them down here. They also don't sell the Philly pretzel. They do sell the Wawa pretzel, but it still doesn't even taste the same as back home, although they do say that it's shipped from Philly. As far as the leaving from Philly and what would I bring, what do I miss the most? Believe it or not, it's the actual people. I think the one thing about Philadelphia that I will have complete respect for is no matter how much we get tossed around, no matter how much we get kicked, I guess I'll say in the squirrels, because you say the other thing, people might take it one way or the other. But when you get kicked around in Philly, you have tough skins, a tough skin, or you don't. One thing that I remind myself, and it comes to the people that I work with here, is that I'm not from Florida. I am from Philly. And I'll keep using that statement over and over again because Philly makes you the person who you are. I mean, if you join the service like I have, that's a whole different story. But with Philly, you just, there's a tough mentality that you have about yourself, and it makes you push yourself even harder. And that's the one thing we try to do here as brothers here on this show is, and by all means, the world's not perfect. We can have our little disagreements and disputes and everything else, but we bond together because that's what you do as a family in Philly. Philly, no matter who's down in your neighborhood, you find a way to pick them up and encourage them that things will get better. So if I had to bring something from Philly, it's just that. It's the people. No matter how much the media portrays us any other way, and they keep bringing up Santa Claus, I get that question God knows how many times from even guys who are in New York in the warehouse next door from where I am. It's like, oh my God, enough with the freaking battery crap. But as far as it's the people. The people make that city, and I wish the city would get better, and it will eventually get better in time. Hopefully the crime will start going away because I've seen the new police chief not doing such a sharp job after certain people, wanted to see a brand new police chief. But, again, things may end up getting better. So, that's the one thing I do miss. I do miss running around the city. Everything was nearby. Lord knows that you can walk anywhere you want to. Being in South Philly, the one thing that I guess I kind of don't miss is parking my car on the 95 and then walking down to 4th and Snyder, especially when it snowed. That sucked, right? Especially coming home at like 1, 2 in the morning. Yeah, because then you get the weirdos that are out there and wondering, hey, buddy, do you need a ride home? No, I'm good. So that's the one thing I don't miss, especially this time of year where it's absolutely cold. I did see that Barbara put on there, no hot dogs, we can't move in there. Yeah. Unfortunately, no hot dogs. So, yeah, sucks.
Michael Sherman stole the hot dogs. And that one down in the lower square will know all about that. Michael Sherman stole the hot dogs.
Oh, boy. David says, long live the professor and the wife's business. Very, very true. Underdog Sports Podcast says, any news on Wentz trade? We haven't heard a thing yet. There's been rumors. Fuji, I think you sent out an article earlier. One of possibly Wentz and Russell Wilson trade, which we don't see that happening.
The latest coming out was Ron Jaworski reported the best deal on the table was 2 number 2 picks and a 3rd or a 4th pick down the road. And Howie wants 2 number 1s, which he's an moron because he's not going to get 2 number 1s. Take the number 1 and walk away, and whatever else you can get.
Right.
By that genius, but I don't want to get started on that. I like to debate that idiot.
It could. Hey, listen, it could possibly happen. It could happen. Getting back to the comments here, I see that Tony says see in Tampa in 29 days. Fingers crossed. Tony, when you come down, listen, 29 days, right? It's going to be even toastier than what it is right now. And I'm not trying to rub it in back home by any means whatsoever. I'm not trying to rub it in, but
you think.
The nice thing is, though, we are in the high 70s, and it does get cold down here. By the way, I don't want anybody to be fooled because there's constant moisture in the air down here, obviously, because we're surrounded by bodies of water. So when it gets cold here, it does get cold. Now, I don't do like everybody else and pulls out gloves and scarves and hats because I still throw on my shorts. But it does get cold down here at times. But it's nice to see that we're finally warming back up here.
Can we get him on the show? If you follow
Tony?
if we follow Tony, if you're out there, we got to get you on the show. The post that you put on Facebook yesterday about your opportunity to be in the filming of one of the Rocky movies was absolutely, positively fantastic. And some of the spirit that you bring to the city of Philadelphia as being a lifelong fan of the Philadelphia Phillies and the Philadelphia Eagles, we have to have you on the show at some point. So find me on Facebook or find Fuji or Angel on Facebook, and let's find a way to make that happen at some point during the year.
I'm friends with Tony on Facebook.
I think I am too, if I'm not mistaken. Let's make that happen.
We actually met out in Chicago, Phil's Cubs at Wrigley back in, was it 2010 or 2011? He was there with his family, and I just stopped hanging out with them for pretty much the whole weekend. Very nice family.
Go to his page and check out that story that he posted because it was absolutely a great 2.5-minute read. It was fantastic.
He's got that Apollo Creed look costume from the first Rocky and Rocky 2.
Nice. Well, Tony, when you get down here for spring training, let me know because we'll definitely connect for sure. Because I love going down to Spectrum Field. I only get to see the boys for about 28 days, so I enjoy going down there. It's a great ballpark, and there's still more upgrades to go. Eventually, from what's been told, is that they're trying to make it as close to Citizens Bank Park as possible. So they're still working on some other things that they want to add on to the ballpark, but it's really nice. And Tony just put on there Phillies Tornado on Facebook.
Tony the Tornado Panical.
So get back to Barbara here real quick. Amen, Angel. Thanks, Barbara. Tom, you're welcome for answering the question, and thank you for as far as thanking me, I guess, for the service. David states that, what do you guys put on your hot dogs? Pardon me. I put mustard and sauerkraut. Fuge.
Mike.
Well, I guess I'm the one
who's a hot dog king.
Yeah, I guess I was accused of stealing the hot dogs when I was much younger. The things that I put on my hot dog are mustard and sauerkraut.
Oh, God.
Mustard and sauerkraut, no relish, which is an amazing story because when Barb and I first went to New York, I said, I'm going to take you to this great hot dog place.
Gray's Papaya.
It's called Gray's Papaya. And she got a couple hot dogs and she wanted relish on them. And they were like, no, we don't have any relish. And she went absolutely crazy about it. But what I put on a hot dog, mustard and sauerkraut. That is my toppings of choice.
No, I do. And I know some people are like, oh, that's ridiculous. Either it's plain ketchup at times with onions if it's available. Most of the time, it's mustard and ketchup that I put on there, along with the onions, again, being available. If there's cheese, bacon, I mean, I tend to load up my hot dog. I will say, and if people are sensitive with their stomachs, please tune away for a second. But I made the sad mistake the one time because I wanted to try it, putting chili on the hot dog. I will say I cleared out the room in less than one gas. It was just done.
Well done. That's the spirit. Well done.
And I couldn't. The bad thing though, Sherman, was I couldn't even get up and run. I was like, oh, no, not right now. And it was during a meeting, and it was silent. It was just one of those like, and it cleared the room out. I'm like, oh my God, who in the world did it? And of course I knew it was me. So guilty that I did it, but it wasn't bad though. I did try. It wasn't bad whatsoever. So
TMI, too much info.
No, this is the information we need. This is what our viewers want to hear. Because it's
how do you know? Did you take a survey?
No, I didn't take a survey, but it's real. It's stuff that people want to hear because we've all done it. We've all had that situation. Let me tell you something. If we're ever on a show and you see my screen go black for a few minutes, or a few seconds, you better believe what I'm doing. I'm, letting out some gas. So if you see me go on,
what the hell did you start?
It's like you can probably figure out what I'm doing over here.
I get you. I got you. I understand. Tony says, Mike Sherman, I will post a screenshot when I finally get screen time in Creed 2 in the crowd.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So if anyone else has questions, I mean, I don't know. We have, sorry. Barbara says, Fuji, I've seen you do a few things. I think some of us have seen some few things this year, and it's memorable moments. I'm going to have to put a video together of Fuji when he went on his rants earlier, and especially, I will say on a personal level, when these two up here in this box get into it, that is the best part for me because I can just kick back and relax and be like, man, this show is great because I can hear them both go at each other. It's the best thing ever. So that's the one thing that if for whatever odd reason, the show takes off in 3 different ways because maybe, Sherman has such a popular showing and viewing that he ends up taking off somewhere. That's the one thing I will miss. But for right now, because all of us are together, that I hope never, ever goes away because it's so much fun to watch these two go at it. It's the best thing on this show. I will say guaranteed. The best thing is when you see these two go off on each other.
Where's that bell sound bite?
I've still
Ding,
download
ding.
the soundboard. David says, whoops, it didn't come through. There it is. Sherman with the truth. Brian, the bearded Juru. Brian, how are you? I hope everything is well. And Barbara says you should hear it in person, especially when Fuji had too many. I don't know. He had a good one. See, there's a part of me that absolutely would love to have the behind the scenes. Fuji's talked about it a while back. And sometimes I would love for just to hit the go live so you guys can see some of the stuff that goes on sometimes in the background because one of the games this season when good Lord, what is the name of the place there? Maddie's on the waterfront. Fuji went off on a crazy tangent before we went live. And it spilled into the live session. And if the camera was on then, granted, of course, kids would have to turn away because it wasn't PG-13. It was beyond that. If there's like an XR-14, that's probably where Fuji was at that point.
Triple X.
There you go. But it was the funniest thing you could see because he was just so pissed. And it's good to see someone when they're in that natural state. But at the same time, too, things that we've learned in the past is sometimes when mics are hot and someone says something, now the rest of the world can hear it. So that's the only tough part when you're doing shows for the most part. Okay, we saw that one. And then Tom says quality TV. So Tom's had a question, or you're talking about as far as us. But, the one thing I will say, and I don't know how everyone feels about this. We did talk off air before we came on air, and we talked about shows in the past. If you want to learn a little something about us here, and we talked about All in the Family and the Jeffersons, and shows that you will never ever in your lifetime see like that again, unless you have. Does anyone know? There's the one throwback channel.
METV, Nick at Night, METV. I don't know, one of those. MeTV.
I think that's what it is. Yeah, MeTV, where they do have some reruns of I don't know if they got All in the Family. I know they definitely have the Jeffersons and some other stuff. Happy Days, I know they have. They just brought Chips and some other stuff. So we'll see if they'll actually play All in the Family. All in the Family was by all means the funniest show, and that was a young lad back then. And even then, it was a lot of fun the way they did all their banter, how they wrote the scripts and everything else. But unfortunately, today, it won't be that kind of show. They try to remake The Honeymooners. Still the same thing. Honeymooners didn't even turn out the way the old classic show was. But, at least they made a good quality attempt. Ryan says Tom Brady with a class celebration yesterday. Yeah, right. Maybe second. So Ryan and I got to talking during the game. And David says he loved Barney Miller. Barney Miller was another good show as well.
Never watched it.
Really?
Never watched it.
Wow. That was another good show.
Angel.
Barney Miller was good. Yes.
Are you implying that you're old?
No, listen, I'm let's see, we got 3 months. 3 months away from my 21st birthday all over again. So by any means, I'm not old. And if you add that by another maybe 29, actually no, you'll be adding 30 because I'll be turning 51 here momentarily in May. But it's okay. The grades are coming in little by little. It's coming in obviously here, so it's coming. Yeah.
Grays all over.
That's a silver fox, right?
Silver fox
right next to you.
Exactly. Well, the funny thing is, so mine will grow in on the side, and every time I get my hair cut, one of the teachers always say, "Excuse me, do you dye your hair?" No, the grays haven't completely come in up here yet, so that's still natural. So I'm, at the moment, I'm still loving that I have the natural hair, but when the silvers come in, it'll be nice as well. So I have no complaints there.
No grays here.
It's right. Listen, what is the? I don't think there's a saying or whatever it is. Apparently, when men turn silver, they look better or something like that. I know it's something to that line.
It's a sign of wisdom.
That's what it is.
You got some grays here, though.
Yeah. Well, that part is if I actually let this completely grow in, I will have more grays here than I will actually up here, believe it or not. And it's for a Spanish guy, I will say, normally most guys get like the guy that I work with, it looks like he has like little, sorry, Adrian, but little like pubic hairs that come out of there because he's trying to grow it. So it's the funniest thing ever. I will say, but he gets so upset where it won't grow in. So Adrian, if you're watching the show, I apologize, but it's hilarious. With Ryan, before I forget, so Ryan and I were talking, I think it was just a little after the half. And Ryan was saying how much love he has for Brady. Of course, I'm far stretching that. But it was just, we were talking about the penalties and everything else. So Ryan, that was a great talk as we were talking about the game. So yeah, no love from Ryan to Tom Brady. Let's see. Don't get me started on Super Bowl, just ask Angel. Yeah. So, as I brought that up because it was, if I could have recorded, matter of fact, Ryan's rant on the phone and played back for the show, it would have made for good podcasting, that's for sure. Classic shows back then, yeah, Happy Days. I mean, you name it, Laverne and Shirley. Three's Company, another good one. And a lot. If some of you are too young for that, it's okay. Just look it up. It's on YouTube, I'm pretty sure. But it was a lot of fun.
Sanford and Son.
Sanford and Son, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what? For the fans that are out there,
play the harmonica.
And I'm going to do a little bit of harmonica. So this is for all the viewers out there and Mike and Angel. Sanford and Son. This is the big one, Elizabeth. It's the big one.
It's funny how it was always the big one, and the big one never came. I mean, obviously later on it did, but it never came within the shows. That was fantastic. Well, then Barbara, you and I, Shane, we shared the same birth month because in May that's when I turned my 51. So Ryan says plug me in, LOL. So I'm assuming he's probably the same as us as far as he get up there with age. Distinguished. There it is. That was the word I was looking for. Was distinguished. You know, I guess maybe I can't. But if you unbutton a couple of the other buttons, you could be representing something completely else. So, but good job there on the show, on the shirt. Rick says we look distinguished. Yes, Rick, that we definitely do. David says Sherman. So, listen, it's always fun, and we thank Rick, Michelle, who I haven't seen in a while. Thanks, Michelle, for tuning in, and everyone else as well this evening. Who else I see? Rick, of course. Rick, by the way, sent me video, and I couldn't get it downloaded on my phone fast enough. He was at the ramps when KC came in, and of course they had run it back, flag coming out the window. So Rick, thank you so much for sending me that video. That was pretty cool. And I guess again, Fuji, because I'm not a Bucs fan, just saying here. The funny thing was there was a promo that the Bucs did today, and they said they're going to run it back for next year. It was kind of like throwing shade at Kansas City, so it should be something else. Photo added to the Rocky Balboa, post in the comments. But I don't see the pictures. So it might be after the show is over, you might be able to see it. So if you guys go to Facebook, our Broad Street South Sports Talk page, you might be able to see the photos added there to Tony, unless you're talking about, Tony, are you talking about your own actual personal page? To make it clear.
Photo added to the Rocky Balboa post.
Tom, thank you very much. And I guess because we're coming up here on the final, there's Barbara.
Hello. How are you?
Mrs. Juru making her appearance.
That's
I
right.
think we look damn good for being in our 50s.
We sure do. It's the all 50s club, except for that guy down there. He's like 40-something, so he doesn't count.
I'm the baby. I'm turning 48.
48?
Yeah.
I'm not 50.
Probably great.
No, but I'm the baby. You're going to be 49. I'm going to be 48.
That's
yeah.
true.
We're the babies, so, you know.
That's true. How am I? Well, I'm the oldest guy. Well, no. I got one guy that's older than me, but he's almost on the way out the door at the job site. But usually I'm the oldest guy in the house or even at my job. Tony said he added it to his fan page.
I will check it out.
So the rest of us. Shizzy, yo, fellas, good show per usual. Thank you, Shizzy. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in.
David says, yes, good stuff, guys. Hi, Thomas. And Mrs. Juru appears. So I am going to run, as I said, just to kind of close out the NFL season. Oh, Ryan says, sorry, I just saw Ryan. Barb's just a tad older than me. Hey, listen, what did they say? The 50s are the new 40s, the 40s are the new 30s. So if we're all looking good at the age that we are right now, I would love to see what we're going to be looking like in the 70s. That's for sure. By then, we'll probably have our Kings and Walkers and stuff, but it'll still be a fun show no matter what.
Me.
No matter what. We'll have
find
to
the out in the youth.
Did you? No, I think, you know what? I think you'll be taking a lot of Prevagen here when you turn 70, mister. That's what I think. So you can get that memory going because this rant will continue on way into our senior years.
Hey, my grandfather just passed a year ago in December, and God bless the man, he was 102.
Wow, God bless. That's a great age.
Had a nice full head of hair. A girlfriend that was 70 years old. God have mercy on her. I'll leave it at that. But anyway.
Rick says Tom McNair is Bucks running back coach. He went to school in Passaic, New Jersey, and is an Eagles fan, even though he played for KC and Houston. True. Very, very true. And Rick says he's the oldest. Well, good to know, Rick. Bart, of course, laughing at our expense. But again, it's been a fun show. We thank everybody. Of course, Marc Farzetta for coming on. We do appreciate for him coming on. And it's been a lot of fun. So I will close out the show with some fireworks. Of course, it is from Tampa, but it's also to close out the NFL season. So everyone, enjoy the fireworks. We will be back momentarily after that to say, of course, goodbye and thank you to everyone. So enjoy the fireworks. I'm going to pause this momentarily so you guys can hear me. Wait for Karen. Karen, you'll just listen out for Karen. You'll hear her. So in case you guys missed it, I said, obviously the Karen was going to come out. So we're watching the fireworks. Mind you, of course, there's, I don't know, like 100 people there. And she's working security in a building right under where we're actually shooting the film. And then all of it, like, she first opens up the door like, what are you people doing here? Like, I don't know, the NFL experience. Everybody comes to watch the fireworks. So she shuts the door like, whatever, I have to work tonight. Then because it's like she was itching just to say something. Mind you, majority of people had their mask on. So she flings the door back open. She goes, if you want to stay here and watch the fireworks, you have to put your mask on. And then she went around. Mind you, this wall, no kidding, was about that tall. She went around the wall, tried to flip back over the wall. And I don't want to say what kind of woman she was or anything else like that. And I'm not meaning that in any kind of harsh way. But it was just funny to watch her try to get over this wall because she almost stepped on her own foot trying to get up and over the wall. So, and of course, it's just one of those things. But so anyways, that was the fireworks show. Again, to everyone, Ryan, I'm sorry, you got one last comment here coming up before we take off. This is like watching Whoville for me and the Grinch is Casey. I know, Ryan, I'm sorry. I know you wanted Casey to win, don't get me wrong, and so did a lot of other people, but unfortunately, it did not work in their favor. So anyways, thank you guys. Oops, hold on, one more. John, it was a rough change, of course, the game. Yeah, well, listen, we made the argument earlier. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. It was 60 minutes worth of football, and Ryan, you and I talked about as far as the penalties, what was fair, what wasn't. But listen, again, we'll see what happens again come next season or later on this year for football all over again. So thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight, who watched the show. Please don't forget to like, subscribe to the page, share it with your friends. Come back at Broad Street South Sports Talk, the Facebook page itself. If you guys feel free to leave a comment if you would like at Broad Street South Sports Talk at gmail.com. Of course, the streets is hyphenated, so it's Broad ST South Sports Talk at gmail.com. So we look forward to seeing you guys again next Thursday. Who knows what the guest will be, or it just may be the three of us running into some crazy rant, because I'm pretty sure I could find something to drive Fuji crazy by next Thursday. I'm almost certain, so we can talk about it on the show. But again, thanks to Mrs. Berg for making the appearance, Mrs. Sherman, on the show. We do appreciate it, of course, her coming on. And Mike, one more time, you can plug in her small business.
BurksBoutique.com, BurkesBoutique.com. She does her live shows every Thursday and Sunday nights. Check it out. Lots of women's clothing on there. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to do the plug.
No, not a problem whatsoever. And brother, thank you so much. And again, we appreciate everyone who watches the show. Again, follow us on YouTube. So just like Mark, you don't miss the show. You guys won't miss our show as well. And if you did happen to miss the show tonight, by all means, go out to YouTube, our Broad Street South Sports Talk channel. Subscribe while you're on there. It doesn't cost you a dime, and we don't get paid for it. We just like to have fun. So by all means, subscribe to us. So for Vito Corleone, Mike Fuji, Fiordimondo himself, for the Professor, the Guru, Michael Sherman, and as for me, your host, thank you guys so much for watching the show tonight. We will see you all next Thursday. Have a great night and a great weekend.